I would be lying if I said that this summer has been out of the ordinary for us here in the subtropics. The heat, the humidity, the rain, the bugs, it's a pretty typical summer. It's often why I suggest popping in some sweet potato slips in November and then having a break from the garden. If you're new here, I'm Nikki, and we try to grow as much food as we can in our regular sized suburban block just north of Brisbane, Australia. We grow in raised beds as our soil here is clay, and with the rain that we get over the summer, we need really good drainage. We do use a lot of organic matter in our garden beds, mostly in the way of compost, and I can never produce as much as I actually need. And this is something that I am planning on remedying this year. Over summer, we decommissioned a lot of the garden beds for these hot months, but I do still have a few staple gardens growing at the moment that I do plant out monthly. For all our other beds, I am preparing for our best growing season, which is from March to August. Sometimes when I'm resting the beds, I'll pop a compost bin directly into the bed. It works really well as I can easily spread the compost out when it's finished. I don't have to move it and I don't have to worry about digging. The problem is that during those cooler months, my space is of a premium. So if I have a compost bin in a garden, I'm losing that space for an extended period of time. This year I decided because I had a lot of my beds resting, I may as well put in some cover crops and see if that will help with increasing the organic matter. I made a mix of buckwheat, mung bean and millet. And I mixed in some inoculant that will actually help the mung beans feed nitrogen into the soil. I simply sprinkled the dampened seed over the bed and gave it a rake in and watered it in. I did have a problem with birds coming and stealing the seed, so I did find just popping a shade cloth over it until they sprouted worked really well to stop them from doing that. All three of these are fast growing, which makes it perfect for a quick turnaround green manure crop. The millet has a lot of biomass and the roots dig quite deep. The mung bean is fast growing, deep rooted and also nitrogen fixing with that symbiotic relationship with the rhizobia bacteria. Buckwheat has more fibrous roots, so that really helps with compaction, and the bees love the flowers. Over less than a month, when the buckwheat had started to flower, the cover crop was ready to come down. I just used some garden shears to cut it right down to the soil level, and then I covered it with some black plastic to kill it off completely. Once it was mostly dead, I pulled off the black plastic and topped it off with soiled bedding from my chicken nesting boxes and watered it in. It's been sitting here now for a little while, but I have been topping it up with some spent comfrey leaves, and I am planning on planting my broccoli in this bed next month. So I'm interested to see how well it will go. Another bed that I was resting, I found I did have a root knot nematode problem, so I added in some out-of-date mustard seeds into my cover crop mix. This one I wanted to try something a little different, and instead of popping the black plastic over it, I just cut it right down and mulched heavily. I then planted into it around about a week later. This has worked really well, surprisingly, and it's probably a method that I'm going to use next time, as I didn't add anything extra to this bed and the corn that I planted is doing really well. Moving forward, I want to get a cover crop in for each one of my beds at least once a year, just to give them all a bit of a refresh. If you'd like to grab the combo, I've put together some seed packs that include the inoculant on my website. I'll chuck a link in the description of this video. Anyway, that's how I'm resting my beds at the moment and prepping for the next growing season. Next week, I will be sowing the seeds for the first official month of the cool season. So if you want to see what I'm planning, make sure you hit subscribe so you're notified when I upload that video next week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.